This is my understanding of the so-called swing states in this election. So you guys can see this. We've got North Carolina, we've got Arizona, Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and Pennsylvania. Now, these are the states that have been showed where at this stage, 7 out of 8 of these swing states are not for Trump, they're for Biden. And for those of you that don't understand swing states, it's very similar to Australia with swing seats, where, you know, it's a seat that's contested by both parties, and they know that it's probably it could flip either side. Help me navigate this, John. What's going on here? I'm very confused why these are the swing states, because if you look at who won them in 2016, Trump won all of them.
Yeah.
And what is this polling based on? Is there any credibility to it?
Well, look, we have to accept that polling has been around since, I think, the 1940s, okay? An enormous amount of effort has been put into perfecting the science of polling. It is quite extraordinary how these pollsters can foresee an election result almost always very accurately, okay? Now, they might be out 2 or 3%, okay, which can be very significant, 2 or 3%, but it's still quite amazing that they are smart enough to gauge an electorate all around the world and, largely tell us what's going to happen. But of course, now look, the polls were not badly out in 2016, as the orthodoxy is that they were way out. And the orthodoxy is that they were way out in the 2019 federal election in this country. They were out by about 2 or 3% on both occasions, okay, which is not great, okay, but it's not like they were out by 6 or 7. Now, with those states that you've just shown, I have thought for some time that whoever wins Pennsylvania is going to be the next president of the United States.
Really?
Pennsylvania is the new Florida.
Yeah.
Because it's a big state. So Trump can afford to lose Michigan and Wisconsin, but if he keeps, and he can even lose Arizona, but if he keeps Pennsylvania, Florida and Ohio, I think, should be fine. Iowa should be fine for Trump. North Carolina should be fine. So I think Pennsylvania is the biggie, but Pennsylvania will sort of will tell us what's going to happen in Michigan and Wisconsin anyway, because that's the similar sort of part of the world.
Yeah.
But look, this is the interesting thing. If you look at those polls, the 3 big surprises on that glorious night on Election Day 2016.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin.
Yep.
No pollster, except for one, said that Trump was going to win it. And these places have been polled, 50 times. Okay.
Yeah.
One pollster said, just in the about 2 days before the election, Trump's going to win all 3.
Yeah.
And that was this guy called the Trafalgar Group.
Yep.
You're familiar with the Trafalgar Group?
Yeah.
Okay. Now they are openly a Republican aligned firm, but they want to get their results right. And they said they came up with this novel approach in 2016. And when they ring up somebody, let's say they ring up Jack and Jill or somebody from outback Wisconsin, and they say, who are you going to vote for? And someone might say Biden. And then they say, the Trafalgar ask another question, which I think is very interesting innovation in polling. They said, the question is, how do you think most of your neighbours are going to vote? And then that person who just said Biden, there's a big jump up of about 10%, she might say Biden, but then she says, I think most of my neighbours are going to vote for Trump. And Trafalgar says, well, look, this is actually a way of trying to find out how many people out there are misleading voters about saying they are not going to vote for Trump, but in fact they do want to vote for Trump. This is what the whole election hinges on, because the polls are not great right now.
Yeah, they're not.
They weren't great in early October 2016. They were very bad then, and then they did narrow and got better and better till Election Day.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping a close eye on the Trafalgar Group. The Trafalgar Group is saying, they had a poll just about 3 hours ago, in Arizona, Trump's had about 4%.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I did actually.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it is.
And he's consistently saying, we're looking very good in all those states you just showed.
Yep.
I think his most recent Pennsylvania poll, he was behind by about 1 or 2, but that's not much. Particularly since, late October was good for Trump last time. And the other thing about Pennsylvania is there's about 250,000 Amish. You're familiar with the Amish community in the United States, and I think about 70% of them live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Now, these people do not have phones and do not have computers, and they traditionally don't vote.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they love Donald Trump. Okay, so there's been these Amish, because they don't have cars, they have the old buggies.
Yeah, that's it.
And they've been having these Amish sort of, buggy runs for Trump. And now, I don't know how any pollster is polling those Amish who are going to turn out en masse for Donald Trump.
Yeah. Wow, that's going to be awesome.
Yes.
I have another example. Ohio is an example where Trump won it last year. And at the moment, he's polling 4 points ahead, which is very unusual. Democrats are stunned right now. The survey of over 1,000 people found that Trump was 47.6% versus Joe Biden's 43%. And this was very interesting because other polls have showed Biden ahead in that area. Yeah. But this poll done by Fox News found that in October, this was not, in October 2016, we had a very similar situation. Clinton was leading that state with 48 to 38, but then Trump went on to win it 51 to 43 against Clinton. So a very late poll in October in 2016, the month before the election, Clinton's polled 10 points ahead of Trump, yet Trump goes on to win it by 7-8 points. There's definitely skepticism there. And that's just one state. But anyway.
Look, that's very interesting data.
Yeah.
Particularly that poll in October 2016 showing Hillary was going to win it by 10. Now, polls, of course, can be out. Look, it feels as though... so much of the mainstream media is just frothing at the mouth in their hatred of Donald Trump. And it seemed they seem to be playing exactly the same thing they were doing 4 years ago, where they think the more we can just tell people that Trump's going to lose by a landslide, the more we can shove it down their throats, the more likely it's going to happen. Yeah. Well, in fact, it could easily be backfiring. Yeah. But the question is, are the people running these polls being scientific or are they being partisan? I think that probably the reality is they're probably trying to be scientific. I don't think they're trying to be partisan. I mean, the Fox News poll, Fox News is generally pro-Trump. The Fox News poll is one of the worst for Trump. It was in 2016 and it is now. And the LA Times, which is not the Los Angeles Times, which is not a friendly newspaper to Trump, all through 2016, the LA Times poll said Trump was going to win. So, look, I think the polling companies are a bit sort of all over the place. Look, we can be dismissive of polls. We like to think after Brexit and Scott Morrison's victory and Trump 4 years ago. Yeah. But I will we need to put on the record as well, the polling at the congressional elections in 2018 understated the Democratic support just a little bit. Okay. So in all those other examples, Morrison, Brexit, Trump 16, all understated the Conservative vote. Yeah. But at the congressional election, and so that's why people think there's this shy Tory voter, this shy Trump voter, because people are reluctant to admit they want to vote for the right because there's violence and intimidation going on. But that was not the case at the congressional elections. But really, Trump wasn't so much on the ballot in 2018 in the congressional election. So
yeah, we could talk about this all day, and I love the knowledge that you're bringing to this because you know about the demographics there. Like, find me another Australian that has that demonstration of intelligence on the topic. It's phenomenal. I'll finish on this very last topic because I know we're running out of time, but just to finish on polls, I found a new poll which actually they were trying to work out how to work out the secret Trump voter and how they're going to vote. And what happened was they came out and they pretty much said that they found, and look, I'll include this in the link, guys, but I'm covering this very roughly. They found that 10% of Trump voters weren't sort of presenting their opinions in polls. 10% of intermediary middle America sort of voters aren't doing it, and 5% of progressives aren't voting that way. And we know that progressives are the only ones that are comfortable airing their opinions on these issues from past conversations I've had. So I seriously think it's being understated. And if you take into consideration that data, you find that the national polls, if you take into consideration, Trump ends up being ahead by 2 points.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, guys, I think they're wrong on this. I don't think, look, the polls, you're right, they were slightly wrong in 2016 and they got the popular vote right. But I seriously think that there's an issue with, they haven't fixed this issue. How do they reach non-college educated white males? And that's one of the things they understated. But let's move on. We could talk about that all day.